There's that funky slide guitar music. Comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the Evil FB Network YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire Roy Blecker. You'll see my nice smiling face. Of course, we'll join the Mighty Met KMT 1490 AM as we usually do at the bottom of the hour. Hopefully we'll have Susan Shelley on. Another day late, but certainly not a dollar short. On that, we'll get her thoughts on the lead story again this week. The whole tire debacle sprung on us by the sea hag Nancy Skinner and Gavin Newsom as we rock and roll through this. Eric Swalwell got greeted by the FBI agents at the San Francisco airport. They also raided his district of criminals home. No more of a despicable human being could deserve that. He should be in Guantanamo Bay right now, facing charges of espionage and treason. Mason City Race Report. Sheriff Chad is trying to blame the Board of Supervisors for the latest cop layoff that he claims he's going to have to do. But back with the whole fiasco, enchilada, ridiculous, out of control story brought to you by the Sea Hag. Nancy Skinner got on the California Energy Commission after serving in our state legislature for God knows how many years. Tried 20 years ago getting it through the legislature. Now Newsom's appointed regulatory agency like CARB, California Air Resources Board, California Energy Commission, which passed this stupid rule that's going to ban 70% of the tires you now can buy today out in 7 years. In 3 years, 50%. And you know what? All the tires that you can buy for, I've seen an advertisement for Bud's Tire here in Mobile. Tires starting at $59.95. Those are the ones that are going to be gone. They're going to be, oh, the cheap tire? It's going to start at about $350 a piece. Newsom claiming, as the disingenuous fart he is, that it's going to save us all money. Here's the Fox 40 report. Hopefully, here we go.
He's out of the state capitol this week, and now Governor Newsom is weighing in for the very first time. Thanks for joining us tonight for Fox 40 News at 5:30. I'm Nikki Lorenzo. Eric Harriman is off tonight. The Newsom administration says the new regulations are about saving you money on gas and creating more fuel-efficient cars, but some of the tire industries say it could limit your options and drive up costs. Fox 40.
Here we go again. The Sea Hag, Nancy Skinner, oh, it's going to save you money. First, I mean, again, where is the, how many lives are going to be lost? How many people are going to be disabled and maimed and killed over these harder compound tires? Nobody is addressing that. Or at least I haven't heard. I think Dunlop kind of touched on it. More from Nikki Lorenzo and the Fox 40 report.
Capitol reporter Eitan Wallace joining us now from Hayward, where the governor spoke about the new rules now garnering a lot of attention and traction statewide. Eitan.
Oh, indeed, Nikki. Good afternoon to you. And just take a look at my car's tires. You can certainly see there is some wear and tear there. So the natural question is, what happens when you need to replace tires like these? How much will those tires cost? And which tires will even...
First off, Eton needs a better car. I mean, come on, Eton. It's a little ridiculous to have a unit like that. And you got a decent job. I know that. Jeez. Here's more from the Fox 40 report.
Be eligible on the market? Well, those are the very questions at the center of this new statewide regulation Governor Gavin Newsom supports.
I think it was a good choice.
Governor Gavin Newsom speaking for the first time on new tire regulations the California Energy Commission, or CEC, unanimously approved earlier this week.
Thank you, everybody.
At an unrelated press conference in Hayward, just south of Oakland on Wednesday, Newsom said he supported the new rules that will require most replacement tires for passenger cars and light-duty trucks to meet stricter energy efficiency standards. Those new standards will be phased in, with the first requirements taking effect in 2029 and then tougher standards beginning in 2033. The governor says his administration backs the rules, saying they will reduce the energy needed to move cars, in turn saving drivers money on fuel, all while cutting emissions.
Look, the ROI is pretty good. The return on investment, back to just facts, save $1 billion a year in fuel. You talk about affordability agenda, that makes...
There we are with this phony argument that we've heard 80s that they're trying to make. The sea hag, Nancy Skinner, tried pulling this crap again too. Oh, you're going to save billions of dollars. First, 110,000. I'd like to see the studies they're talking about. And then again, I want to see the studies of how many people are going to be killed and maimed because what you're doing is running a hard compound tire. Again, it's not going to stop as fast. It's going to hydroplane in the rain. If you get into a corner a little bit too fast, well, with the old tires, you might have been able to step on the brakes and get through it. No, you're going to go careening 100 feet off of the bridge or cliff into your death and your family's death.
Some sense to me.
California Energy Commissioner Nancy Skinner acknowledged under the new regulations about 70% of the tires currently sold in California will not be legal to sell come 2033. But she also stresses tire manufacturers have 7 years between now and then to come up with new types of tires to sell. Tires Skinner believes will ultimately benefit consumers.
Will ensure that the tires sold in 2029 will be the same quality and just as good as the tires that are on your brand new car when you drive it off the lot.
She's a complete moron. Again, she knows nothing about tires at all. You get a harder compound tire, it's going to do exactly, I don't care how they make it, what they do, you can wave the magic wand over them. Your car's not going to stop as fast, it's not going to corner well, and it's going to hydroplane much easier when it rains or if you get in the snow or in any sort of adverse condition.
Michelin and Bridgestone Tires said they hope to work with the California Energy Commission to ensure the new regulations take effect smoothly. But other tire manufacturers and industry groups have argued the rules could limit consumer choice and lead to significantly higher costs for replacement tires after the tougher standards take effect. A coalition of tire companies earlier this year sent the commission this letter urging it not.
I want to focus on this. Look, they said, only one tire company was against this. All the others were on board. Look, Goodyear, Yokohama, CTDA, the SEMA, the specialty equipment manufacturers, on and on, SCCA, Cal ABC. Because Bridgestone and whatever capitulate. Well, we'll be the only ones. The others will probably just say, the hell with it, we're not building California tires. We'll be the only two, and we'll be selling these things for $500 a piece instead of $59.95. We can go down to buy tire at Bud's here in Marina Valley today. Lord have mercy.
To adopt the regulations amid concerns over high costs. Republican State Senator Tony Strickland of Huntington Beach, meantime, argues the new rules are government overreach.
There's a lot of families that are living paycheck to paycheck, and they can't afford these kind of regulations. In fact, these board directors are the modern day Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. They don't care that they're really driving people out of the state of California.
You'd be wise to take advantage of new efficient tires, lower your cost at the pump. Tire manufacturers, the vast majority came on board. One notable one did not. But from a consumer.
Goodyear, Dunlop, Yokohama. It's three right there that have said, hey, this is ridiculous. But that's only one. I guess they've merged or something. I said, you don't even have to fact check Gavin Newsom. He's never produced a fact in his life. Yeah.
Perspective, the savings is self-evident, and so I think it was a good choice in that respect.
The savings are self-evident. No proof. Zero proof. And again, how to use his adage, or the sea hag, Nancy Skinner. Well, how much is a life worth? Again, how many more people are going to be killed, maimed, and injured over these harder compound tires? We'll finish up with Eton Wallace and the Fox 40 report.
Now, certain specialty tires used for motorcycles and for vehicles that go in snow, off-road, and for emergency purposes are exempt. Reporting live here in Hayward, covering local news that matters, Eton Wallace.
Oh, so for your Yamaha motocross bike, we'll still allow you to buy a tire that won't make the bike where it's going to kill you. Holy Moses. We get to the city councilwoman, or councilwoman candidate, who lists her address as the corner bar. I guess Norm's going to be your campaign manager. You can't make this stuff up. Mason City Race Report, Susan Shelley, and much, much more on the rest of today's show. Yes, it is. Can you believe this? Up in Stockton, young lady decides she's going to run for city council. Sounds like a great civic duty project. Upstanding citizen. Well, as Paul Harvey said, the rest of the story from KCRA3. Here we go.
Represent District 5, but now, as KCRA3's Carson Wells reports, she's at the center of a corruption investigation.
Desiree Lynch was arrested around 10:15 this morning on 5 felony charges. I spoke with the district attorney for San Joaquin County earlier today, and he says that this follows a 6-week-long investigation. According to Lynch's campaign website, she's a full-time ICU nurse and a mom. She announced last week that she would withdraw from the election, but
what's with all the neck tattoos? ICU nurse mom. Sounds like, again, when you heard that, but look, wonder where the hell they got this photo. Almost looks like a booking photo. Or, well, I better stop before I get myself into trouble. Let Carson Wells pick it up from here.
this week she said she intended to stay in the race. She's charged with 3 counts of perjury, false voter registration, and false filing for candidacy. The San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office accuses Lynch of perjuring herself.
So elections are the bedrock of our community and our system of government. And to have individuals that come in and manufacture their addresses, we're not
manufacturing addresses. Oh, this one's going to get real good. Let Mr. Freitas continue.
We're going to tolerate that. Our constituents need to have people represent them that live where they live and are from their district.
According to the district attorney's office, Lynch registered to vote and as a candidate using residential addresses where she didn't live, including at Harry's Cocktail Lounge on...
At Harry's Cocktail Lounge? Actually, if you would have seen the photo that they show, I would say she would be more, if I was looking at that photo, I would say more likely she's working at Harry's Cocktail Lounge doing who knows what, versus being an ICU nurse, but we'll see. Harry's Cocktail Lounge, you know, this is what's really great about this story. You know, you don't have to have a home. This is going to be an interesting case because they have determined you don't have to have a home to register to vote. You can register to vote that I'm a vagrant living in the park or the sidewalk or wherever. That a council candidate, I think in Ojai, had her car parked in the driveway of somebody's and she was using that as her residence and she was a council candidate. As far as I know, if I can remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, or my memory's out to date, but there was nothing there. They said, oh yeah, that's okay. So, I'm wondering, well, why can't she list Harry's Cocktail Lounge as her residence? Maybe we could find out what she does at her residence at Harry's Cocktail Lounge. Here we go.
East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and Doyle Garden Apartments on East Oak Street. The DA's office says their investigators discovered Lynch actually lived in Lodi and North Stockton, which falls under City Council District 1. Prior to the arrest, Lynch was slated to be a candidate for District 5 in this November's election. I asked DA Freitas what this could mean.
So they're saying, oh, well, she's up there in Lodi, which I think is a town designation, kind of like you would have Edgemont in Moreno Valley or Arlington and Riverside. I mean, it's a designation, but it's not really it's still part in the city limits. This is going to be an interesting case to follow besides the fun and frivolity of registering at or saying your domicile is Harry's Cocktail Lounge. Here we go.
For that if she's found guilty.
That's going to be with the Registrar of Voters and the Secretary of State to decide.
We reached out to the San Joaquin County Registrar of Voters and the Secretary of State to see what this arrest could mean for the November election, but neither were able to comment. Lynch bailed out of jail today, and if found guilty, she could face a maximum of 6 years and 8 months in state prison. In Stockton, Carson Wells, KC.
This is going to be, again, I'm going to be able to follow this case very closely. Because it used to be, you had to register to vote at a residence. They would check you out if you ran for office. And okay, make sure that that's a viable residence and you were doing that and yada, yada, yada. Well, then they came up with this, the emotional crapiola of, everybody's, everybody's special and all. And nobody, how can you deny somebody a vagrant the right to vote? Well, if they want to register at the park at the corner of Main and Alvarado Street, well, there you go. Free for all. And there's tax consequences and stuff. Usually it's been figured wherever you spend 6 months in one day or the majority of a year, like the IRS says that's where your residence is. So there's lots of nuances to it, but the Secretary of State and Attorney General's offices in a lot of these local communities have been letting this bullcrap run for the last 8 to 10 years. So, you just make up anywhere. You can say you live anywhere. You can register to vote anywhere. You don't need a physical residence to do that. So, again, this is going to be a very interesting case. I applaud District Attorney Freitas for bringing the case forward, because it definitely needs to be clarified. Besides, can you use Harry's Cocktail Lounge as your residence to run for office? Maybe one of the funner stories that we've had. Gavin Newsom saying, oh, these poor utility companies, if they burn, if their lines catch a field on fire and it burns down the Pacific Palisades or Altadena, or PG&E up the Paradise Fire Room, well, they can only be limited to so much liability. The ratepayers will pay. That means you and me. Remember, there's nothing free. Here's another KCRA3 report. Hopefully, here we go.
Over a proposal critics say would reduce the financial responsibility for utility companies in future wildfire damage. KCRA3 Political Director Ashley Zavala is pressing state leaders for some answers on this.
While this proposal would limit wildfire payouts from these private utility companies, we're learning tonight there are no new rules, deadlines, or expectations that these companies do more to make sure their equipment doesn't spark a wildfire. We checked in with the governor about this, and we're asking state leaders how soon they might act on his push. Victims, meanwhile, are furious.
Altadena wildfire victims incensed by Governor Gavin Newsom's latest proposal to limit how much utility companies pay when they cause a wildfire.
This is ridiculous and unfair, and we need to recenter the conversation on what survivors need.
In the final days of California's legislative session, the governor wants to change rules around how much money gets pulled and who gets what from the state's wildfire liability fund. Utility customers and companies pay into it. It would not impact the victims of any wildfires that have already happened, but for future wildfires, his proposal would limit who exactly is a victim, prioritizing mainly those in burn scar areas. It would also prevent insurance companies from suing to recoup their losses and strictly limit the money local governments get to rebuild. While the proposal creates these new limits, it does not include new rules or deadlines for the utility companies to do more to prevent their equipment from sparking a wildfire.
Gavin Newsom, and I don't know, I'm sure SoCal Edison and San Diego Gas and Electric have probably given money. PG&E, which Pacific Gas and Electric. Once you go over the grapevine, you get into central and mainly Northern California. PG&E runs all the electric and gas. Most of the electricity and gas in Central and Northern California are PG&E. They're the biggest, I think they're the biggest utility. I know they're far bigger than Edison. They may be the biggest utility in the United States. They have given Newsom gazillions of dollars. And don't ask yourself. Any company that's giving campaign contributions to any politician, they are expecting a $10, $100, $1,000, $1 million return for every dollar in campaign contributions. PG&E isn't giving Newsom money because they think Gavin Newsom's a great governor or he's so cute. They're giving him money just for exactly this. Oh, well, whatever we pay out, which they've already done in the Paradise Fire for PG&E, they just jack up the rates. They've done it down here with SoCal Edison. And they're going to do that again with the Pacific, with the Altadena Fire, which is SoCal Edison. It'll just be tacked onto us SoCal Edison customers' rates. The insurance companies can't sue back the utility companies to recoup their losses. We are totally insane. People are really on Team Flock Off. Here's the latest. In the surveillance state, if it isn't already in your town, it soon will be. Brought to you by Ulysses Police State Cabrera, Moreno Valley mayor, who was hired by Flock, who got rid of him. But he was hired by Flock to go out after what? We gave him a $3 million contract to put cameras up that we had already put up 10 years before. And now we can surveil, we can track you better than has ever been before. Here's the latest.
Around the country and here in San Diego over automated license plate readers. Law enforcement calls them vital tools, but there are growing concerns over privacy and misuse. Now, many are calling for change, including canceling contracts with Flock, the company behind the systems. News 8's Esmeralda Perez joins us now with more on the fight. Esmeralda?
Well, Garlo, community members spoke out at the city's Public Safety Committee hearing, urging officials to rethink this technology. Meantime, San Diego police say without it, investigations could slow down, making it much harder to track down wanted suspects.
There are 500 automated license plate reader cameras placed throughout the city of San Diego. Police say the technology is helping locate stolen vehicles, missing persons, and wanted dangerous suspects. But the local American Civil Liberties Union has launched a petition calling on the San Diego City Council and mayor to get the Flock out and cancel all of San Diego's automated license plate reader.
That was pretty good. The reporterette said, get the Flock out. Well, maybe we're going to get a little personality and spice back into life. Here we go.
Contracts. ACLU San Diego and Imperial County's legal director, Frederick Carroll, says the problem isn't just an individual capture of a license plate. He says it's much more.
What there is a database that creates an entire mosaic, a picture of a person's day-to-day life, picking up your kids, going to church, going to recreational activities, headed to the beach, and can immediately recreate an entire person's life.
San Diego police.
This is where I agree with the 1.3%, and where the ACLU, and I got to give them credit, they do a very good job. On free speech, eliminating the police surveillance state, and they're tracking, like, you're going to the church, you're going to this, they're putting a profile on you. How do you know Flock is not selling your information and creating a 500-page dossier on you like McDonald's did to that one guy? The police misusing them, and I get it, and it is the good of it. If your car gets stolen, it makes the cops much easier for them to find it. But the Flock technology is not 100% bad. If you could just contain it to law enforcement duties only, and you could be assured that your data wouldn't be sold, that they couldn't come back and try, Roy was over there at the political meeting, with a bunch of those racist white hillbillies.
Lieutenant Christopher McAndrew oversees the department's automated license plate reader program. He tells me the locations of all the cameras are posted on the website and that the department is transparent about the guardrails it has in place. He also notes community members, the Privacy Advisory Board, and the City Council help shape how they use the cameras.
Some of the information that's going out there about these cameras being video cameras, they're not. They only take photos. They don't take photos of the inside of the car. They're designed to take photos of the back of the car and the license plate. That's what.
Bumper stickers. Again, they can track. And where is all that information stored? Now what? They can keep it for 2 or 3 or 4 years. People are wondering, well, why are we not eliminating that like in 30 days or 60 days? If it was just that important. Again, I can see the good part of the flock cameras, like the cop said, if they're makes it much easier if you a stolen vehicle, even though the camera system we got in Moreno Valley. Yeah, they have to physically go through that. With a flock system, they could go type. But, as they said, it's only taking a photograph. Our system in Moreno Valley, or like Caltrans, is 24/7 monitoring of cameras of traffic flow and whatever all the time. So again, I have way more concerns with this flock deal than we did when we put the original camera system in here in Moreno Valley. Sheriff Chad is blaming the Board of Supervisors for his potential or threatened 600 plus sheriff deputies to be laid off in Riverside County. Here's the ABC 7 report. We thought, why won't it play? Well, we thought we were going to bring you the ABC 7 report on Sheriff Chad. But it seems to be not playing. You know, you set these things up. Very professional. And then your whole computer system just locks up. Like nobody's business. Let me see if I can try Control-C. See if it'll play over here. Control-V. I got one computer now that's completely locked up when you're depending on them. I want to see if this... Let me just give this a roll and see if it plays.
About this tire story?
Well, that one's working. And I thought I was going to get the Sheriff Chad. Dang. Well, maybe we'll have to pick that up tomorrow. As everything's just going completely haywire. Anyway, hopefully we'll get to that story tomorrow. Here's another one. You maniacs, you finally blew it. You finally done it. $40 trillion in debt. We just crossed over $40 trillion in national debt in the United States of America. Now, debt of $2 can be a problem if you can't pay it back. Debt only becomes a problem when you can't pay it back. And as Trump started out in 2.0 and 1.0, we got the economy humming in 1.0. Then it looked like, well, we'll be able to take care of this, and the COVID con came. Okay, we have not been able to cut off the spending. We were spending a little over $4 trillion a year was our budget. Our last one, 19, before you get into the COVID con. Then it immediately shot up to about $6.5 trillion. Almost 50% more. And we've stayed at that point. We've not backed off of all the spending. We should have cut when Trump 2.0 came in, we should have cut $2 trillion. Lock, stock, and barrel. We should, even adjusting for inflation. We should have a budget that's under $5 trillion coming up debating instead of 7. And right there, if we got it down to $5 trillion, we would have a balanced budget plus a surplus. It's beyond surreal and ridiculous. What we are doing to ourselves. And if we can't pay, the thing of it is, if we can't pay back the $40 trillion, or we can't, the U.S. will not be the world's reserve currency. At the end, every 24 hours, all transactions across the world are settled in dollars. That was a petrodollar. Nixon negotiated that back in the oil crisis of the mid-70s, and when he took us off the gold standard. Well, a little 50 years later, this is... Would you talk about the wars in Ukraine and the threatenings in the Iran and the Chinese, the Chi-Coms and Taiwan and all this other stuff? How the Chinese and the Middle Eastern countries and Russia figure they're going to strike down the U.S. They're not going to fire a shot. They're going to say, the dollars are worth nothing. Or we're just not going to settle in U.S. dollars. We're going to do our own thing. And then consequently, the United States will not be able to sell or finance, not only not sell or add to the debt, they won't be able to refinance the $40 trillion we have. And as you see, the Statue of Liberty and you will be totally broke and destitute. And again, it's not, if we had more money coming in or we could afford to finance it, or let's say we were bringing in $7.5 trillion in income tax revenue to the federal government and only spending $7, the $40 trillion in debt would not be a problem because you would have the ability to pay it back. We have not run a surplus, in close to 30
20
years,
seconds, 20 seconds.
when it was barely on. As Jesse said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met KMET here in a few seconds. Hopefully Susan Shelley will call in. We'll get to her thoughts on the tire thing and her columns of the week. And much.
3 seconds. Here we go.
Much more.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There we go. There's that funky slide guitar music. Comes on every Monday through Friday. Live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the 4-minute day event. Join our vast video audience in the evil FB Network YouTube. Check us out, subscribe. Type in News or Roy Blecker. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face. Of course, more on the tire. They're gonna... Oh, man, it's so infuriating. And then they're trying to convince us, oh, we're going to eliminate 70% of the tires on the market, and you're going to save money. Gavin Newsom, the CHAG, Nancy Skinner, are trying to run that con on us. I mean, you don't even have to fact check them anymore. You know, they're totally out of shape. The other one, the young lady, you need to go back and check out the first part of the show. The young lady, 28 years old, who's running for Stockton City Council, first check out her photo. She's being sued being arrested by the DA, saying, you don't live in the council district you said, because one of the residents she was using, get this, was Harry's Cocktail Lounge. I kid you not. She's been bailed out of jail or whatever on that. That's going to be an interesting case, though, with all the stuff that's been going on top of all the new rulings, as they say, that have came in, where it has been stated that you can pop a tent in the park and say, oh, this is my residence and register to vote. So this, on top of the humorous part of saying your residence is Harry's Cocktail Lounge, among other places, it's going to be a very interesting case to see how it plays out. She's facing 6 years in jail of that. I'm glad DA Freitas is doing it, because it does need some clarification moving forward. Can you run for office and say, oh, do we have, I can pitch a tent on the sidewalk and say, hey, that's my residence. Well, hopefully, I couldn't get the video to play Sheriff Chad. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow. He's trying to he's blaming the Board of Supervisors for the pending 600 plus sheriff deputies. He's planning to cut over budget cuts over the last budget, despite record $10 billion more in spending in Riverside County. Record revenues. It's kind of like the federal government. As we went over $40 trillion in debt. And if we don't get a handle, either if we're not bringing in more revenue, or we don't start cutting spending drastically at the federal level, not only will the Statue of Liberty sink into the Atlantic Ocean, we will all be destitute, like the guy in the picture. Jesse, did Susan call in yet, or?
No, nothing from Susan.
Give her a ring and see. She might have forgot, because this is Thursday. See that. See if she's coming on or not, or am I going to have to solo the rest of the half hour? We'll see if Susan comes up on the line. Picking up on more of the frivolous frivolity that makes up our little neck of the woods. Eric Swalwell was greeted by FBI agents, and his home was raided. Well, his District of Criminals home was raided by the FBI. Here's the Cron 4 report. Here we go.
Confronted former...
Oops, I thought it was going to go. Oh.
Seized his cell phone. FBI agents also searched Swalwell's home in Washington, D.C. Cron 4's Charles Clifford live at SFO now with the latest on this developing story. Charles.
Well, good afternoon. Eric Swalwell is facing multiple investigations into his alleged sexual misconduct, and now the FBI has seized some of his personal property. According to News Nation, the FBI has seized electronic devices and searched a home belonging to former Congressman Eric Swalwell. Swalwell apparently had his cell phone taken at SFO this past Saturday after agents served him a search warrant. One day later, investigators searched Swalwell's home in Washington, D.C., seizing additional electronic devices in the process. Sources tell News Nation that the searches and seizures were related to an ongoing federal investigation into sexual assault allegations against Swalwell. Swalwell resigned from Congress and suspended his campaign for governor of California back in April after multiple women accused him of sexual misconduct. And
you know, this one's a hard bridge to cross. Maybe, and I'm almost saying, if Eric Swalwell wasn't one of the biggest slime bucket, womanizer, talk about disrespect for women of our political officials, he's got to be in the top 3. With his arrogant attitude, my ass don't stink, and you know what? I'm Congressman Swalwell, and if I want you, you're going to obey. Here we go.
assault. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department and the Manhattan District Attorney have also opened investigations into the allegations. While Swalwell admits to making mistakes in judgment, he has denied the more serious allegations against him.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false.
Remember that one? That one was a Goobaluk or whatever his name was, the guy that was running for governor that dropped out and then was engaged to the chick who's allegedly been, the OnlyFans chick who's allegedly was shaking everybody or been shaking down people for years and being charged and arrested. Man, what a bunch of... correct me if I'm wrong. Do we have snakes and ghouls running across our whole political system? Here we go.
Absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened. And I will fight them with everything that I have.
KRON 4 reached out to an attorney representing Eric Swalwell, but so far we have not heard back. We've also reached out...
No, they haven't heard back. I am shocked. I can't believe Eric Swalwell. Where's all the big denials now, Mr. Eric Swalwell?
Out to the FBI for more information, but they declined to comment. All right, back live now. That's the very latest here at SFO. Charles Clifford, KRON 4 News.
It's just like with Gavin Newsom and the sea hag Nancy Skinner. Just like the sea hag and Gulag Gavin, oh, we're going to take 70% of the tires off the market. Off the market. And you're going to save money. They're going to get cheaper. I mean, this is the equivalent of saying, you know what, we're going to take Southwest Airlines and all these cheapies and all that. And, you know, American and United are only going to have first-class tickets available. Oh, you can still fly. But instead of a cheap flight from LA to San Francisco being $59 or whatever they do, or you can go across the country for a couple hundred, $300 or $400, $500. Oh, that's going to cost you $5 or $10K. We're not saying you can't fly. We're just going to cash register justice you out of everything. Yeah, you got a car. You can't afford gas. Oh, you got an electric car that we told you to buy? No. Oh, you can't afford the electricity. Oh, even though you got either one? Like we said, those tires, the Bud's tires advertising for $59.95 are now $500 a piece. Oh, but you can drive your car, no problem. Oh, that's how they're going to solve the traffic problem. You, me, and 98.7% of us will not be able to afford to drive our cars. So voila, they don't have to build no freeways or roads because there won't be, us minions will not be able to use them. Because we will be cutting up the cars that we have and selling them for 1/10 of a cent on the dollar because scrap value is the only thing they're going to have because you can't afford to drive them. This is how ridiculous our society has gotten. Man, oh man, oh man. It's really, really, really beyond surreal. Anything that we could even come up with. The amount of torture. The amount of torture they try to put us through. And we live this every day. More of the just plain stupidity that we deal with on a daily basis. We go through this amount of just plain, I don't know, I'm trying to calm down the words. I'm really trying to calm down the words. That are rolling through my head. Sheriff Chad is trying to blame the Riverside County supervisors over the 600 pending layoffs of sheriff deputies, despite a record $10 billion plus budget in Riverside County they just passed, yet we can't afford sheriff's deputies. Man, what a deal. Finally, I think I've got it. Here we go. I thought, here we go. Possibly.
The finger at county supervisors. Inland Empire Bureau Chief Rob McMillan has more on the office's budget woes and what Riverside County leaders are saying tonight.
I've told them all along that this day was coming because they're kicking this can down the road and they just don't care.
Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco furious at the county's Board of Supervisors for failing to give him the money he asked for in this year's budget. Consequently, he says he could soon be forced to cut more than 600 positions in the department.
They know that I am extremely short-staffed. They know for a fact that I am shorted $125 million, and that equates to 622 deputy sheriff positions. And it's just simple math.
To be clear, the board isn't cutting Bianco's budget. They actually increased the sheriff's budget by about $25 million. But Bianco says he needs more than $150 million to avoid making cuts.
They're being extremely dishonest.
So I want to get to the point of this. And I've been down at the budget hearings at the county for decades, And even this, and through all of Sheriff Chad's and the Board of Supervisors and the budgets and pointing out that this day was coming. They can't open the 1,200 beds because they've been ripping us off. They got $10 billion. They got twice as much money as they had 5 years ago. You go look at the budget, it was about $5 billion 5 years ago. When we finally got done with the Indio jail, built it, $300 million, 10 years it took us to do it, finally got it open in 2018 or 19. And they're only using the money that they used as they closed down the old garbage Indio jail. That's why the first floor is open. It's been sitting there for 7 freaking years with 3 stories, 1,200 beds that only have had real cockroaches instead of the criminals that should be in there. And they've jacked the costs up, and it's been a mutual chowder society. Sheriff Chad never asked for the money to open up those 3 floors until last year, and that's because I've been the only one that I remember. There could be somebody else out of 2.5 million people that have been down there talking and pointing this out. So I have no love lost between any of them, because they've done it all to themselves. And Sheriff Chad got in when the Board of Supervisors tried to blame Stan Sniff for the deal of the budget shorts and everything that were coming on during his term, and then when we were going through the housing crisis and hardly any money in 2012, 11, 10, 14. Well, now, Sheriff Chad, you're getting the Stan Sniff treatment that got you into office. So let's start being honest with the people all the way around all of our elected officials. Sheriff Chad, D.A. Hestron, Ben Benoit the auditor, all the Board of Supervisors, Jose Medina, failed educator, Karen Spiegel from Corona. You've been watching this and voting on these things when you've had the evidence in front of you that this was going to happen. Chuck Washington. Who pointed out at one of the last meetings why we were doing all this, and with Sheriff Chad and going back and forth at the budget hearings, stamping exactly what I've said has been going to happen and was going to be the train wreck coming, and now we're here. Again, it isn't like we're not in recession like we were in 2011, 12, 13. We're getting record revenues in. And they're having to cut the budget of the Sheriff's Department. Expenses are outstripping revenues humongously. And that's where the problem is. And if we don't stop that, from the $40 trillion in national debt to ever increasingly government employees ripping us off for exorbitant salary and benefits and retirements, we're going to collapse the system.
They know exactly what the consequences of this budget was.
Riverside County's executive officer releasing a statement that read in part, quote, during the budget hearing, several departments, including the Sheriff's Department, presented requests for additional funding to support current staffing levels. Similar concerns were raised throughout the budget development process by multiple public safety, health, and human services departments. These requests reflected legitimate operational pressures.
Let's deal with this and Jeff Van Waglen's statement. I've said this many times, and I've said it at the last budget hearings. Public safety, roads and bridges, sewers, waters, infrastructure, as they call it, the fancy term, used to be the majority of our budget. Our California Constitution mandates that we have to have. That we have to have 1,000%. First priority of government agencies is public safety. They've ignored that. Half of the county budget right now goes to health and human services. But 25% to police and fire, about 12% to roads and bridges. This is where the problem is, and has been going, and now the train wreck. Obamacare, everything's free, free, free. No, it isn't. Somewhere somebody has to pay. And that's where we're having the big problem. And that's why you could see this. This would be a problem like we had back in 2012. Yeah, when revenues are down, recession, yada, yada, yada. Record revenues. Almost doubling in the past 6 years in Riverside County. Yet, here we are. There's tons of blame to go around.
However, the cumulative cost of those requests significantly exceeded the discretionary revenue available to support them. The board therefore had to balance competing priorities within finite resources while preserving the county's long-term financial health.
So the question is, how is this all going to play out? Because the sheriff says of the 600 or so positions he needs to cut, he's only planning on cutting about 200 of them through attrition, retirement, and transfers. The rest of those deputies, he says he's going to pay anyway.
So you're going to spend that money anyway?
I am.
And so what happens then? Because then you're going to go over budget.
I am.
In Riverside, Rob McMillan.
At the end of the year, or getting close to the end of the year, paychecks might not be going out. Then what are you going to do to everyone? If you're out of money, if you're out of cash flow, if he doesn't lay off those deputy sheriffs or SEIU dispatchers or whomever, and 37%. Deep doo-doo. I don't know what's going to take. But man, from the District of Criminals to the scoundrels of Sacramento with the $40 trillion in debt, the latest, you won't be able to afford tires for your car. Man, oh man. To here, we're not going to have cops on the street. A little bit of the race report at Mason City, Flow Night in America. Hopefully, here we go.
Poker Trucking 50 here tonight at Mason City. Green flags up.
We are underway for 20 large at Mason City Motor Speedway. Brandon Shepard and the Raleigh 6 of Hudson O'Neill lead them into 1 and 2. O'Neill going to get the early advantage down the back straightaway. They go 3 wide for third spot behind. Shift here at Mason City Motor Speedway at the front of the field. Ben, they'll come around to
You know, these guys will flat get after it for $20,000 to win. They put on one heck of a show out there at Mason City. Hudson O'Neill coming down to the last lap. Here we go.
The winner of the debut of Mason City Motor Speedway, Hudson O'Neill. Nick Harvin gets second. Pierce is third.
Nick Hoffman made, as you saw, last charge coming off of turn 4 and passed Bobby Pierce for second. Pierce wound up third. He was second going into 3 at the start-finish line. He was back to third. Great pass. Battle Royale for 20 grand to win at Mason City. High Limit Racing's out here tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday at Santa Maria Speedway. So you can catch that on Flow Racing. Hopefully we'll have some highlights of that tomorrow on the show of the first night at Santa Maria Speedway. Well, I think, no, there's a Thursday and Friday at Santa Maria, and I think Tulare is Saturday. But we'll get that straightened out tomorrow. Hard to keep all this stuff straight in your head at these. You know, when they're burying us under all this other stuff, gotta have some enjoyment and fun in life, because there's sure. I was having a conversation with somebody today. They asked me that. I said they're trying to take all the fun. Not only are they trying to take all the fun out of our lives, they're not allowing us to have any. We've got to rise up and fight back. Just tell them to flock off. That'll do it on this Practice Friday. In big anticipation of Faster Than You Friday. I'm sure we'll wake up tomorrow and everything will be puppy dogs and kittens and lollipops and ice cream. Well, maybe we can even get the right music. So we usually say at this time. Going to turn you back here 23 hours wide. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
All right.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I haven't got any replies from Susan, so
Yeah, I don't know.
happened.
I don't know. The mic all of a sudden just started going dead all the freaking time. It was a fun day today.
I can tell.
We'll see you. Well,
I'll talk to you later.
Some other time.
Yeah.
Bye. So why in the hell does this storm? Ah.